So we're going to get into our theories and predictions now, and I want to start actually by talking about Baron Zemo. Okay, let's talk about Baron Zemo, because at the very end they decide that this is the guy they're going to go to get information or something, right?
Yeah.
To help them, because they really don't have any leads on these flag smashers, I don't think. So they're going to go talk to Zemo, and they show him very quickly in his cell, right? And I would contend that one of the, this is my theory, is that, an unexpected thing that could happen is that he ends up becoming their ally. Now, that's not to say they're going to trust him. That's not to say, that he necessarily, has their well-being as the first, priority on his list, Zemo. But I think that he's going to say, well, I have something you need, and so you're going to have to, get me out of this cell if you want me to help you, even if it's just on a temporary basis. Because, in the trailer too, we saw a scene that looked like they were outdoors, where Bucky would empty the ammo out of a gun in front of Zemo. And of course, I think there was a trailer where he wears his mask, right? His purple mask from the comics. So I think I feel like my theory is they're going to go to him for information. He'll be like, okay, I'll help you, but you got to get me out of the cell temporarily. And, maybe they'll get him out with a ankle bracelet, tracker or something on it. But, this is Baron Zemo. He's going to find a way to slip free and cause more trouble during this show and, potentially in the future. So, but not before giving them the lead, that they need. So it could be an interesting trio of bickering dudes coming up here soon. What do you think about that? Am I off base?
I think that's another sucker bet. I think that's definitely going to happen that way.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't see any other way you can slice that.
Yeah. I do wonder whether Zemo actually has any connection to the Flag Smashers. I mean, I guess he's been in prison since the end of Civil War, basically, so he probably isn't directly involved with them, but he might know the key players.
Yeah, and they're probably not giving him a whole lot of, freedom with pen pals and internet access. So
and the thing, yeah, right, no pen pals. The thing with Zemo is we know from Civil War that he is a crafty mofo. He's a schemer. He's extremely intelligent. And he's a bad guy. He's a bad guy who saw himself as doing the just thing. Well, I don't know. Maybe he felt that it was some sort of justice, but maybe it was probably mostly revenge for his family. And he was one of those villains that, first of all, I love Daniel Bruhl, the actor. He plays him so well. But he's one of those villains that has he's got a real grievance, a real valid grievance. But the way he goes about addressing the grievance is what makes him a villain, right? The Avengers caused a lot of destruction, and that's how his family died. That's a legitimate grievance, That was kind of, that type of thing was the whole basis of, the conflict in Captain America Civil War. But he decided to, kill a bunch of people and release the Winter Soldier and, do all of this stuff in order to get his revenge. And, that's what made him a villain. So are you looking forward to seeing Zemo in the show? And, what are you looking forward to with him? Or what do you think?
I think he's going to, like you said, there's going to be some very interesting interactions between him and our two main characters. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to reserve a lot of judgment until after, they play through the first meeting.
Yeah.
To see kind of how they're going to spin that. But mm-hmm. I don't think he's there by accident. I don't think they put him there lightly. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to use him being in the story to full advantage.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think they would be bringing him into the story if they didn't have something interesting for him to do. I have faith in Marvel Studios at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a quick interview in a cell and then bounce, and then we never hear from him again.
Right? No exactly. Way. It's he's going to... God, there's only 6 episodes, man. There's only 6 episodes. And, maybe the last episode or two is going to be a little bit longer than, these first 2. These first 2 were pretty decent lengths, though. They were in the neighborhood of like 45 minutes, I think. So, I mean, that's standard. That's like standard length for a TV show with commercials, So, yeah, okay, we're agreed on Baron Zemo, but like let's talk other theories. What other theories do you have for this show? I want to hear what you got.
So they mentioned Power Broker, and Power Broker is in a lot of ways another source of how, the bad guys get their super serum.
Mm-hmm.
I think that John Walker is going to get whooped by Enhanced multiple times, sort of snap a little bit because his ego can't take it. He's going to get some of the super serum from Power Broker, and then, as you mentioned, power corrupts, and he's going to go off script, and then Sam and Bucky are going to have to go ahead and steal that shield back because we can't have a villain with the Captain America shield.
You think he's going to go AWOL, basically? Or
yeah, I think he's going to go off book, and he's going to do some stuff, and the government's going to be like, can't have that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I like how you put it in that he's going to go off book. I don't know that he's necessarily going to be like disowned by the military or the government at that time, but I could see him becoming dangerous and doing some bad stuff.
It's like you said, how the original doctor who created Steve's serum said it amplifies what's there. And they've given us a little peek at the end of this episode that what's there is not pretty. So even if the, government agency behind his creation doesn't completely disown him, I don't think they're going to be able to support him either.
Yeah, because I think we really are going to get this contrast of like when Steve got his powers versus when Walker gets his powers. I feel like they're really setting this up, right? And,
yeah,
it'll be like he'll be a bully or he'll be, drunk with power and he'll go off book, like you said. He'll decide, he'll be more like brutal than Steve or something, or like, he'll hurt somebody that he didn't have to hurt, or, something like that. And that's going to be a big red flag for Sam and Bucky. And it'll be like, nope, we can't take it anymore. No, you can't have this shield,
Yeah.
But because we know from the trailers that Sam is going to get the shield and he's like, they're practicing with it in his yard. I feel like there has to be some component of what happens that either does make the government like disassociate with him, fire him, or he goes AWOL, or something happens publicly where, he's discredited publicly so that public support would not be with him retaining the shield anymore. Like something like that, right? Because otherwise they're going to come after Sam. And I don't see that happening. Because Sam even mentioned to Bucky, I can't remember whether it was this episode or the first one, where he said, look, last time we took this shield, I was a fugitive for 2 years.
Right.
That's not going to happen again.
Yeah. And another character flaw that they kind of show in John Walker that may rear its ugly head, as it were, is the arrogance. Like maybe he gets, some kind of super serum and thinks, okay, now I got the juice. Now I'm unstoppable. And he does something thinking he's unstoppable and just gets crushed.
Oh, interesting.
So he's taken out of play by the bad guys. And, Sam's the only one left.
Yeah, that could be.
So it's just a question of, at some point, John Walker's character flaws are going to take him out of play. Now, whether it's the arrogance or the, thinking he's an arm of the government onto himself.
Right.
Which character flaw is going to win. It's up to Marvel, but I think it's going to be a story of you know, Steve was just basically oozed of good, and this guy does not.
Yeah. On the other hand, I don't think that they're going to make it so black and white as like, oh, he's actually evil. I think it'll be more, you know, more of a gray area, or it'll be more like complex in terms of like he has good aspects and he has bad aspects.
Right.
Know.
Which is what makes me kind of, you know, after I just had the thought, his arrogance being his Achilles heel, because he's not necessarily a bad guy, but he thinks too much of himself, and that gets him into trouble because he doesn't take the safety measures he should.
Well, yeah, I do think it's more than just arrogance, though. I mean, I think that there's an element of, I mean, yeah, there's some ego there. Yeah, there's some arrogance there. Yeah, there's some like, you know, maybe like self-entitlement. But there's also something about, I really don't think it's just his personality. I think that he has like some type of like authoritarian tendency or something. Maybe that's the best way to put what I'm thinking, you know, because it's like how you phrased it, like maybe he kind of thinks that he's an arm of the government all to himself, you know. It's like, you know, Steve took things into his own hands sometimes, but it was never out of ego, and it was never out of a sense of self-importance or anything. It was out of a sense of duty.
Yes.
I think, you know, duty, loyalty, just straight up like moral fortitude, like, man, I just can't let that happen, you know, type of a thing. Whereas this guy is like, no, I have the authority of the government vested in me, and you listen to me now, and I'm Captain America. You know, that's more of the impression that I get from him. So yeah, like that'll be interesting. And, you know, I also wonder like how far into the show we're going to get before something like that happens. Because again, only 6 episodes. I would say
I would say this next episode, we're going to see the conflict.
Yeah.
And if not this episode, the next episode.
Well, at the end of
going to be Sam taking that shield.
Yeah. Well, the end of the 3rd episode is the midpoint of the series.
Yeah.
So, and the midpoint of a story is generally when things kind of flip around and like things are pretty bad, and you know the heroes have to start getting more proactive than reactive in a way. And so I think it would be a natural point for that to happen, but I would also not be surprised if it doesn't happen until like the 4th episode. But yeah, I think it could very well happen next episode. You know, because they're working separately but on the same mission now. Bucky and Sam versus, you know, Walker and his friend Lamar. Battlestar.
Yeah.
Like Bucky's reaction when he calls himself Battlestar, which is like obviously this like superhero name that like either he gave himself or the government gave him to make them like the Captain America super team. Like, yeah, Bucky's reaction was like, all right, I've had enough. Stop the car. I'm out. You know?
I'm like, I'm out. Peace. See ya.
I mean, and that just goes to show, like, because look, dude, even like Sam and Bucky don't refer to themselves by their superhero names. You know, I think really the only person who was who was tended to do that was like Tony, but just because he was an egoist. I am Iron Man.
Yeah, he was a walking id.
Yeah, but like but it shows the ego, I think, you know, that they're like, well, I'm going to call myself my superhero name, even though I'm not actually a superhero. I'm just a guy, like a sidekick and an outfit. So you know, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, and when he says that, in the back of my head, I hear Bruce Campbell in Sky High. Sidekick.
Oh, I've never seen that. I don't think I've seen Sky High.
There's a scene where they're separating the children into hero or sidekick. and Bruce Campbell just really plays that scene up and talks about how some of the kids are sidekicks. And you just hear Bruce Campbell screaming sidekick when the dude introduces himself.
Yeah, that's totally who he is. I mean, that's his you know, superhero name from the comics or whatever. I'm not really familiar with that character, but it was that moment I was like right there with Bucky when he was like, stop the car. I've had enough. This is too much. Like, and really, I mean, these guys are starting to be like self-entitled jerks, like while they're having this conversation, while the guy's carrying Steve's shield and like all this stuff that's been building up. And he's just, because I have a feeling that Bucky was like, I got to get out of here. I am going to punch this guy in the face. You know?
Well, yeah.
That's how I felt. So, okay. So other predictions, Bob, what else you got?
Let's see, other predictions. I don't think we've seen the last of Isaiah.
Oh, no way we've seen the last of him.
They set too much up to let that lie as it is.
Yeah, and Sam gave the house like that one last look before they kind of walked away and got accosted by the police. But like, yeah, I my money is on Sam going back there and being like, look, man, I'm really, really effing sorry about what happened to you, but we got a problem.
Yeah, we got problems. We need your help.
And we're screwed if you don't help us. Like, it's the odds are pretty long as they are, but we need your help. At some point, he might even say like, look, at some point you signed up because you wanted to serve your country. And like, I'm really sorry about what happened, but now things are going down and you are needed. And I'm really sorry about what happened to you, but here we are. I have a feeling the conversation could go something like that. I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it's like to be those guys, but that's just kind of how I see it. Yeah, I think you're totally right about that. I have a feeling that he'll join the team in the next 2 or 3, episode 4 or 5, he'll join the team, and it'll be reluctant, but he'll, and maybe Sam will be like worried that he's old or something, but then like in the first fight, he'll be like, oh, yeah, he can still throw a man, across a football field or, whatever is going to happen.
Well, even, just in his house, he had whatever that was like an output tin or whatever, and just sort of flicks it into the wall and it sticks. So he's definitely not weak.
Yeah,
by any stretch of the imagination.
And I mean, if he fought in the Korean War, I mean, that makes him considerably younger than Steve would be, and younger than, him, right? So that would be, so he's probably like 70, 80 years old, but with the super soldier serum, he's still in pretty good shape. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
he may not be in prime condition for him, but I think he would still take either one of us and not break a sweat.
Oh, well, easily. I mean, and he'd probably give Bucky a run for his money too, I would have to imagine. But so, and obviously an asset against the Flag Smasher super soldiers, if that's what we're calling them. So yeah, I think he's definitely coming back. I think Sam is just on a trajectory to getting the shield back. However, and I think that is going to have to do with Walker going off book, like you said. And I feel like they're setting up him getting the serum, but behaving in a way that is a big contrast with Steve Rogers. I don't see. Look, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know what's going on in Kevin Feige's head or whatever, but like, it almost feels inevitable to me. But I don't know how it's going to happen. So that's what I'm excited about seeing, is like how it unfolds. And look, I could be wrong. I've made predictions that didn't pan out before, but I think that. My biggest predictions are just like, that's what's going to happen with Walker, and Sam's going to take up the shield, and there's going to be an element of either public support for that against Walker, or like he's just out of commission, or he's forced to give it up for some reason to him that either shows us that he's a better person than we thought, or that he's doing it in a calculated PR type of a way. If you had to pick one of those ways that would go down, though, Bob, what would you say?
It's a tough call. I'm still thinking he's going to mess up big time.
Do you think he's going to hand it over of his own free will, or do you think it's going to be he's either gets taken out of commission or he goes? I
think one way or another he's not going to have a choice. I don't think now that he has this symbol of status, he's going to give it up freely.
Okay. So, but do you think that the idea of him not having a choice could involve like news cameras on him and it's like there's pressure and he's got to do it in that moment? Or do you think it's more of like they take it from him? like forcibly take it from him.
I think I'm kind of leaning towards they forcibly take it from him.
Because he goes off book type of a thing.
Well, he maybe not like supervillain bad, but like how you say like the cameras are there and like the cameras see him do something not cool.
Okay.
And then Sam's like, okay, I'm way better than this guy. I'm way more guy than him. I'm taking the shield back.
Yeah, I think that there's a point beyond which there's a line that you can cross with Sam where he's like, nope, you can't have it.
Yeah.
He's gonna cross that line. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I feel like that's what's gonna happen. Okay. I don't think I have any more predictions at this point. Those are the big ones for me. Do you have any final thoughts on this episode, Bob?
Well, I mean, I think at some point Bucky is going to transition away from being the Winter Soldier. And being more White Wolf. They kind of just they slip that in. You blink and you miss it.
Yeah, they did.
Like, hey, you're the White Panther. Nah, it's really White Wolf. Huh? And then Bucky takes off. Like, we're not talking about that right now. We're busy.
It's interesting because in the comics, I believe at a certain point, he's got like a white suit that's made of vibranium, right? And so it makes me wonder if the international sort of nature of the threat of the Flag Smashers will sort of enable him to go to Wakanda or meet up with Shuri or somebody like that, and for them to like help him out by giving him like the White Wolf suit. I kind of think that's not very likely to happen.
Again, it's only 6 episodes. It would be a lot to introduce.
It would, yeah.
A whole country full of characters to the story for the handing over the suit scene.
I feel like they could do it in a quick scene where they like stop in Wakanda and it's like, here, I got your message, and like here's this thing that we told you about. Okay, bye. I feel
I think it would kind of be funnier if this big crate comes and there's a note like, hey, I saw you getting whooped on the news. Maybe you need this.
That's kind of like something Shuri would say too, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm going to remember that. I feel like that would be really fun and wouldn't take up a lot of time, like you said.
It wouldn't. It's just he 15 seconds him reading the note. It's like,
yeah. And they did slip in the reference like you said, where he said, no, it's White Wolf actually. What did he call him? White Panther?
White Panther. He's like, you're being all stealthy. You're like White Panther now.
He's like, no, you spend a little time in Wakanda and you come out White Panther. He's like, White Wolf, actually.
And then immediately bolts off after the bad guys.
Yeah.
And Sam's just there like, okay, it's go time, apparently. Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. So that was fun. I mean, maybe something like that would happen. That would be awesome. I just don't know that it needs to happen, Maybe it'll happen in a future movie, but that would be the most entertaining way I can think of for it to happen.
I look forward to Bucky getting more tech because he goes to jump out of the plane and he rips the sleeve off to show his metal arm, and you're thinking, oh, he's jumping out of the plane without a chute. What cool thing is in the arm? Nothing. He just thuds out of the plane. It's like, oh, there's no extra tech. He just made a big thud. And
that he knows that's what's going to happen when he jumps out of the plane, which is why he looks so unhappy about the fact that he's got to do it.
This again. All right, fine. Like, he's just accepted his fate at this point.
Yeah. And he's had
his way with him.
And he's had enough bad falls. I mean, that's how he got separated from Steve in the first place. Must have been terrifying. So God knows he might have relived that. Okay. All right. Well, do you have any final thoughts on this episode, Bob?
I think they did another good one. Give it another 9 out of 10.
Okay. God, you know what? I think I got to give it a 9 out of 10 too. I really do. It might even be higher than that. But definitely a 9 out of 10 for me. I mean, I think it was, God, it really balanced the humor with the action, with the intimate and the personal emotional moments. Like, this is one of the things that you didn't used to get out of superhero movies and shows that were superhero-ish, right? Was the extent of the emotional impact. that kind of stuff was kind of corny. Like, think back to the old, the Fantastic Four movies with Chris Evans and
Well, yeah, a lot of
Jessica
the
Alba.
sci-fi, a lot of the action, it was all action, and it seemed like in a lot of movies, and maybe it was just, writing has developed over the years, production has developed over the years to where we can add that emotional component. But it seems like a lot in the past where it was action for action's sake, the plot was almost secondary. Whereas now they're using it more as it should be, where the action's a plot device that's helping to tell the story. It isn't the story by itself.
Yeah, I think it's just a certain style that Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios has brought to like the superhero genre. That wasn't, I mean, before it was, they were just made as like blockbuster, like summer movies with a lot of spectacle, basically, in action. And, that's not to say that they didn't have like, character arcs in those movies, but they didn't have the same level of emotional realism. Like when I go back and I watch those movies, you don't get the same kind of emotional connection. It's more of like a fun, like, haha, or like, oh no, like, wow, that looks cool that planet just exploded. Like, stuff like that. But I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, I'm really enjoying the show, and I'm really looking forward to what happens next. So